Shalom, shalom, beloved viewers, subscribers. We are here again, the Natsarim of Yahuwah, with another thought-provoking presentation in response to a thought-provoking question. Should we eat chicken? Now, this is a heavily debated topic in the community of visceral. And this presentation is the purpose of the presentation is to bring about awareness, to inform through research, and at the end of the presentation, the decision whether to eat or not to eat will be on each of us. Yada Yahuwah. We carry Leviticus 11 verses 13 to 19. And these you do abominate among the birds. They are not eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle and the vulture, and the black vulture, and the hawk, and the falcon after its kind, every raven after its kind, and the ostrich, and the night hawk, and the seagull, and the hawk after its kind, and the little owl, and the fisher owl, and the great owl, and the white owl, and the pelican, and the carrion vulture, and the stork, the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat. Hadabarim, or Deuteronomy 14 verses 11 to 20. Any clean bird you do eat, but these you do not eat: the eagle, and the vulture, and the black vulture, and the red kite, and the falcon, and the buzzard after their kinds, and every raven after its kind, and the ostrich, and the night hawk, and the seagull, and the hawk after their kinds, the little owl, and the great owl, and the white owl, and the pelican, and the carrion vulture, and the fisher owl, and the stork, and the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat, and every creeping insect that flies is unclean for you. They are not eaten. Verse 20, any clean bird you do eat. Very interesting. So we're told in both scriptures of a list of birds and those after their kind which we should not consume because they are unclean. We're also told we may eat any clean bird, which begs the question, what are these clean birds? What characteristics do the unclean birds share versus the clean birds? A number of questions should be coming to mind. Unclean birds, we would observe, share one or both of the following characteristics. One, they are birds of prey, which means they prey on other animals. Two, they are scavengers. So we recognize that the birds listed as unclean share these two characteristics.
So the big question to ask, so what are the clean birds?
Excellent questions, Akhad, which we're sure some persons are also asking. So let's use scripture to see what birds may have been categorized as clean birds, which we may consume. We first look at Barashith, or Genesis 15 verse 9. And it says, well, let's read from 9 to 11. And it says, "And he said to him, Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, and a 3-year-old female goat, and a 3-year-old ram, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took all these to him, and cut them in the middle, and placed each half opposite the other. But he did not cut the birds." Verse 11, "And the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, and Abram drove them away." So we see the distinction here. Usually on sacrifices, only what is clean may be offered unto the Most High. And so we are seeing examples here of turtle doves, young pigeons, and they are in contrast to what are referred to as birds of prey, which would be in the unclean categories.
So we call Leviticus 1 verse 14. "And if the ascending offering of his offering to Yahuwah is of birds, then he shall bring his offering of turtle doves or young pigeons."
We get to Alaf Shamuel 26 verse 20, where a metaphor is used to describe particular actions, but this metaphor is interesting. What does the verse say? "And now do not let my blood fall to the earth before the face of Yahuwah. For the sovereign of Israel has come out to seek a flea, as when one hunts a partridge in the mountains." Hunting of partridge in those times, usually within the community of Israel, hunting would have been for the purpose of food. And so it is believed partridge would have been, as it is mentioned in this metaphorical statement, would have suggested it is also a bird that is clean and may be consumed.
So Shamut, or Exodus 16 verse 12. "I have heard the grumblings of the children of Israel. Speak to them, saying, Between the evenings you are to eat meat, and in the bukar you are to be satisfied with bread. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah, your Elohim." And it came to be that the quails came up at even and covered the camp, and in the bukar the dew lay all around the camp.
So here are some characteristics of these named birds. They are as follows. 1. These birds are primarily granivorous and herbivorous, with occasions when they would be omnivorous. What does it mean by granivorous, herbivorous, or omnivorous? It means that they predominantly feed on seeds, grains, fruits, leaves, or flowers, and occasionally on small insects. These birds do not eat or prey on other animals, whether dead or alive. They do not eat the flesh of other animals. Secondly, they are small to medium-sized birds when compared to other species of birds or birds of prey, which tend to be medium to large in size. Thirdly, these birds are usually preyed upon by birds of prey. And so we would observe that based on these characteristics, with their diets being predominantly granivorous, herbivorous, and occasionally eating insects, they don't eat mice or rats. They don't eat the cooked carcasses of other animals or the uncooked carcasses. They feed predominantly on plant-based materials or small insects. When compared to chickens, do the chickens we have fit this or these characteristics that have been listed? Something to think about.
So there is no evidence in Scripture that chickens or similar birds were being consumed by the ancient Ahabah or Hebrews of the Most High. Domesticated chickens, which are descendants of the jungle fowl, became more widespread after Ishmael had already established dietary laws.
The origins of the domestic chicken, or Gallus gallus domesticus, with of course Gallus gallus being from the jungle fowl, and domesticus because they have domesticated this bird, trace back thousands of years to the wild jungle fowl in Southeast Asia. Let's look at an overview of the ancient history, brief history, and also take a look at the domestication of chickens. So we've already established that these would not have been in existence, nor were they consumed by the people of the Most High in the land of the people of the Most High. It would not have been in these territories, and that of course the dietary instructions would have already been in place prior to the arrival of these birds in that region. But let's look at the research and what the information is saying.
The wild fowl's descendants can be found on the tables of people everywhere. Roasted with beans and potatoes, glazed, grilled, skewered, stuffed, and transformed into soups and stir-fries. About 7500 BC, when humans were learning how to cultivate edible plants and make primitive pottery, they began to tame and bred the red jungle fowl, a tree roasting bird with a big fluffy tail, a brightly colored comb, and glossy brown neck feathers. Crossbreeding and domestication of the jungle fowl over the century has given the world hundreds of types of domestic chicken, from the black-fleshed silky to the robust Jersey giant, and a total population today of about 24 billion chickens. The domesticated descendants of the wild Asian jungle fowl are now humanity's primary source of protein.
Domestication and human influence. When we look at hybridization events, as humans transported chickens across various regions, it is believed they likely crossbred domesticated chickens with local wild jungle fowl populations, introducing new genetic traits. What was the purpose? Early domesticators may have selectively bred chickens for desirable traits. Whose desires? The desires of those nations that would have bred these birds. Some of these traits which were desired: tameness, egg-laying capacity, or physical appearance. Coming out of modern genetic studies, recent genomic analyses reveal the complex hybrid origins of chickens, showing contributions from various Gallus species and subspecies. What were some key studies? Wang and other researchers in 2020 analyzed wild species genomes and found evidence of introgression from multiple junglefowl species into domestic chickens. Tixier Boychard and other researchers discuss how these hybridization events shaped the traits of modern chickens. So chickens now, based on the research, it is suggested what we see now as modern chickens for meat or for egg laying, etc., really were the crossbreeding of various species of Gallus or of fowls or chickens, and it was man interfering with the natural progression of these birds. However, where that domestication exactly happened and when it happened is still in question, because a lot has come out of various research activities or events. The earliest possible domestic chicken remains were said to be found in the Sishan site, 5400 BC in northern China. But whether they are domesticated is still controversial. So yes, remains of chickens were found, but whether they were domesticated is another matter. Firm evidence of domesticated chickens isn't found in China until about 3600 BC. Recent research suggests that there may have been multiple domestication events in distinct areas of South and Southeast Asia, talking about places such as parts of China, Thailand, Burma, and India. The origins of the domestic chicken, Gallus domesticus, have been extensively studied through genetic analyses and archaeological findings. What were some of these findings? Well, according to Scientific Reports 2021, origin and evolutionary history of domestic chickens inferred from a large time-scale genomic analysis. This study utilized genomic analyses to trace the domestication of chickens, suggesting that they were initially derived from the red junglefowl species Gallus spadiceus in regions including southwestern China, northern Thailand, and Myanmar, or I believe that's also called Burma. Or Burma. The research also indicates that as domesticated chickens spread across Southeast and southern Asia, they interbred with local wild jungle fowl species, contributing to the genetic diversity observed in modern chickens now. So we attempted to show, the regions. So in this general area, we're seeing a little of Burma or Myanmar. We're seeing parts of China, parts of Thailand, a little part of India. So in that general region, the region of other nations, is where these birds were believed to have existed. So they were not present in the lands of our ancestors or our people. They were not present there. And prior to being domesticated, there is no evidence showing that these birds were food for anyone, even for the other nations, prior to them being domesticated. Here's another a map that is a little clearer. So we're seeing the presence of them in China, in Thailand, in Myanmar or Burma, and of course India over here, where the various species of jungle fowl were said to be present, and the territories which possible interbreeding or crossbreeding rather took place of different species to somewhat ensure the genome of the current species reflects what they desired, whomever desired at that time, for the species to look like, to shape like, to act like, to produce like, so a lot of what we would say now in modern contexts, lab work, experimenting, genome sequencing, and interfering with the natural order took place to create the modern species, which across the world is the most commonly consumed protein. So what are some of their wild ancestors? The domestic chicken's primary ancestor is the red jungle fowl, Gallus gallus, native to the forests of Southeast Asia, including parts of India, Myanmar, Thailand, and southern China. Genetic studies also suggest contributions from the gray jungle fowl, Gallus sonorati, a related species in the chicken's domestication process.
Origin of the domestic chicken from modern biological and zoogeographical perspectives. Animal Frontiers 2021. This article discusses the domestication of chickens, highlighting that the red jungle fowl subspecies Gallus gallus species is the primary wild ancestor of domestic chicken. It also addresses the role of interbreeding with other jungle fowl species in shaping the genetic makeup of contemporary chicken population.
The domesticated chicken, Gallus gallus domesticus, is, as we've been seeing so far, primarily derived from the red jungle fowl, but evidence suggests that it was crossbred with other wild species of jungle fowl during its domestication process. These interbreeding events contributed to the genetic diversity of modern chickens Here are the main species involved.
The grey jungle fowl, Gallus sonorati. The grey jungle fowl, native to southern India, contributed genes to domesticated chickens, particularly those responsible for yellow skin. Genetic evidence. Studies indicate that hybridization with the grey jungle fowl occurred after the initial domestication of chicken in Southeast Asia. Significance. This interbreeding likely influenced physical traits such as skin and plumage coloration.
2. Green jungle fowl, Gallus varius. The green jungle fowl, found in Indonesia, may have contributed genetic material to chickens transported to islands in Southeast Asia. Physical traits include or show traits reminiscent of the green jungle fowl. So we've tried to illustrate the green jungle fowl here, such as certain feather patterns and iridescent coloration. Green jungle fowl. 3. The Ceylon jungle fowl, Gallus lafayette or Lafayette. Native to Sri Lanka, the Ceylon jungle fowl is thought to have had limited interaction with domestic chickens, but its genetic contributions are less significant. Behavioral traits. Some researchers hypothesize that certain behavioral adaptations in domestic chickens may have been influenced by hybridization with the Ceylon jungle fowl. 4. Selective breeding among red jungle fowl subspecies. The red jungle fowl itself has several subspecies, including Gallus spacius from Southeast Asia and Gallus jabuli or jabuile from Vietnam. Interbreeding within subspecies. Domesticated chickens likely arose from hybridization among these subspecies, amplifying their genetic diversity and adaptability. So a lot of interbreeding, crossbreeding, hybridization, domestication, changing the appearance, genomic sequencing, the behaviors of these birds to what we have now.
Domestication timeline. First evidence of domestication. Chickens were likely domesticated around 8,000 years ago in what is now modern day China, India, and Southeast Asia. Archaeological evidence shows early domesticated chicken in the Indus Valley or 2000 BCE and northern China 5400 BCE.
Built around 2500 BC, Mohenjo-Daro was one of the largest settlements of the ancient Indus Valley civilization and one of the world's earliest major cities, contemporaneous with the civilizations of ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Minoan, Crete. Mohenjo-Daro was abandoned in the 19th century BC as the Indus Valley civilization declined. But of course, it's believed there was some evidence of domestication taking place, as we stated earlier, in the Indus Valley. So that would have been, so we see China over here in the Indus Valley, in close proximity here, still in those other territories of other nations. Then we have the biocultural origins and dispersal of domestic chickens, proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, 2022. This research provides archaeological evidence pinpointing the earliest unambiguous domestic chicken bones at Neolithic sites such as Ban Non Wat in central Thailand. Remember, we mentioned Thailand earlier. Dating to approximately 1650 to 1250 BCE. The study suggests that chickens were not domesticated in the Indian subcontinent, and that their spread to regions such as central China, South Asia, and Mesopotamia occurred in the late 2nd millennium BCE, reaching Mediterranean Europe by around 800 BCE. So would have been around this area, and then there is some spread taking place according to that research, but still in the generic, in the general area being discussed. And we have the spread to other regions. So chickens were introduced to the Middle East and Europe via trade routes such as the Silk Road, and these are in the colors red and blue on the screen. By around 800 BCE, chickens were present in Greece and other parts of Europe. They reached Africa, or Alkebulan, and the Americas through later trade and colonization. So it didn't spread to other regions until much, much later. Again, we illustrate it would have started around this region and then spread out much later, following 800 BCE. So we see where it would have spread way after. It was not part of the rest of the world's diet, neither were they in these regions until later.
So major new international research reveals new evidence about when, where, and how chicken were domesticated. University of Oxford, 2022. Now this article summarizes research indicating that the domestication of chicken was underway by around 1500 BCE in the Southeast Asian peninsula. The study emphasizes that chickens were initially attracted to human settlements due to the availability of food, leading to their domestication and subsequent spread to other regions.
We're still looking at research findings So this one by BMC Biology 2020, the Wild Species Genome Ancestry of Domestic Chickens, reports genome-wide analyses indicating that domestic village chickens have genetic contributions from multiple wild Gallus species, which we indicated earlier. The findings suggest that while the red jungle fowl is the predominant ancestor, there has been introgression from other jungle fowl species, enhancing the genetic diversity of the domestic chickens we have now.
Cultural significance, ritual and symbolism. In ancient times, chickens were not only used for food, but also for religious rituals and cockfighting. In ancient China and India, they were seen as sacred animals linked to deities or used in divination practices.
When we look at certain pagan traditions and the inclusion of the chicken or the rooster into different pagan or mythological findings, or we see where roosters are sometimes used for a divination practice called electriomancy, a Latin phrase combining rooster and divination. This would sometimes involve sacrificing a sacred rooster during a ritual cockfight to communicate with other mighty ones, according to their beliefs. In ancient Greece, chickens were still rare and were rather prestigious food for symposia. Delos seems to have been a center of chicken breeding. About 3200 BC, chickens were common in Sindh. After the attacks of the Arya people, these fowls spread from Sindh to Balak and Iran. During attacks and wars between Iranians and Greeks, the chickens of Hellenic breed came to Iran, and about 1000 BC, Hellenic chickens came into Sindh through Medan. The mythological basilisk or cockatrice is depicted as a reptile-like creature with the upper body of a rooster. Abraxas, a figure in Gnosticism, is portrayed similarly, and you can read up more on this. We will have some sources listed at the end of the presentation, but we attempted to illustrate some of these here. So you're seeing the illustration of Abraxas depicted with the head of a chicken and the lower body of a reptile.
Modern chicken evolution. Selective breeding over centuries has led to the development of various chicken breeds optimized for meat production, or some may know as boilers, or egg laying, or some may know it as layers. The industrialization of chicken farming in the 20th century further transformed the species. From their origins in Southeast Asia, domesticated chickens spread to other regions. By around 2000 BCE, they reached the Indus Valley, and 250 years later, they arrived in Mitzrayim, or Egypt. Their presence in Europe is noted about by around 800 BCE. These insights into the origins and domestication of chickens are supported by genetic analysis and archaeological findings, providing a comprehensive understanding of the ancient history.
Chickens, of course, in the modern context, are very economical. It's one of the most affordable forms of meat that is consumed across the Arats. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO or FAO, chicken meat surpasses other types of meat in production and consumption worldwide. Poultry accounts for more than 35% of worldwide meat production. That was from findings in 2023. Chicken is a staple protein source worldwide, with consumption patterns varying significantly across countries. And we show here some data with the top chicken consumers or countries by total consumption, and also top chicken consumers per capita consumption, meaning per person. So we see where the total consumption is led by the United States, followed by China, European Union, Brazil, Mexico. And per person or per capita, you're talking about the Bahamas leading. And we have, the top 5 there. So a lot of chicken is being consumed now. A lot of these interbred, genetically modified birds are being consumed now. By this time, you sort of see where we're going with this, but the Nazrim of Yahuwah, again, we're only showing you information from research findings coming out of constant debates we see in the community of Visceral about the validity of chicken being clean or unclean. And out of questions we have asked ourselves, and in fact we're in discussion about the consumption of this product and whether or not we should continue. For the Nazrim of Yahuwah, we choose to discontinue. We used to consume this, and we have decided no longer to do so. And we are showing you why. Based on the research, we find this was not food for our people. It was made into food by other nations, domesticated, their genes messed with, and given to the rest of people across the Arats. What are some potential dangers associated with consuming chicken? Similar to persons who would present benefits scientifically, protein and that sort of thing. What are some dangers? We observe also that chicken, because of how modified it is, these do not hold the exact characteristics of clean birds. We do not see where they are predatory in their behaviors either, but we see where they're eating other carcasses. They're not predominantly granivorous, eating grains, and they eat whatever is given to them, to include other chickens. The characteristics of clean birds, they do not eat each other or eat other birds or other dead carcasses or so. They're predominantly granivorous or herbivorous in nature. Chickens, because of how messed up they are, they eat anything given to them. I've seen chickens eat various types of meats, both cooked and uncooked. I've seen them also eat grains and vegetables, and I've seen them eat mice. I've seen them eat so many different things, whatever is given to them. And we can see why, because this is a genetically modified bird that we have now. So what are some potential dangers? Bacterial contamination. You talk about salmonella, campylobacter, E. coli. Salmonella, a common bacterium found in raw or uncooked chicken, which can cause severe food poisoning. Symptoms include diarrhea, abdominal cramps, fever, and vomiting. And we see that depicted over there as well to the right, or right, but the left of the screen. Campylobacter, another bacterium often present in raw chicken. It can cause gastroenteritis and in rare cases lead to Guillain-Barré syndrome and neurological conditions. So it affects the nervous system and even the brain. E. coli, although less common in chicken, contamination can occur during processing. Antibiotic resistance. Chickens raised in factory farms are often given antibiotics to promote growth and to prevent disease. So they're not usually allowed to naturally grow. They're not very natural anyway. Over time, this practice believed to contribute scientifically to the development of antibiotic resistant bacteria, which can be transmitted to humans through meat consumption or cross-contamination. So this can be passed to humans.
Hormonal and chemical additives. In some regions, chickens may be treated with hormones or chemicals to enhance growth or appearance. These substances may have potential links to hormonal imbalances in humans, increased risk of certain cancer, and disruption of natural endocrine function.
Allergic reactions. Some people may have an allergy to chicken or components used in its preparation, such as preservatives or marinades. Symptoms can range from mild hives or swelling to severe anaphylaxis. So there's some people who have certain allergic reactions to chicken, includes skin itching, ear infection, tingling and swelling in mouth, sneezing, coughing, watery eyes, nasal problems, abdominal cramps, insomnia, fever, migraine, asthma, to name some of these. Okay, so risk of contaminants. Arsenic in feed. Some chicken feed may contain arsenic-based compounds to promote growth. Residual arsenic in chicken meat
Pose long-term health risks, including cancer. Heavy metals. In rare cases, chicken raised in polluted environments may accumulate heavy metals like lead or cadmium which are toxic to humans. Ethical and environmental concern. Ethical issues. Factory farmed chickens are often raised in overcrowded, unsanitary conditions, leading to stress and disease. Environmental impact. The poultry industry contributes to deforestation, water pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions. Risk of cross-contamination. Handling raw chicken can contaminate kitchen surfaces, utensils, or other foods, leading to foodborne illnesses.
Processed chicken products such as chicken nuggets, tenders, or deli meats often contain high levels of sodium, which is excessive salt, and can increase the risk of elevated blood pressure levels and heart diseases. Preservatives are added to these products. Preservatives such as nitrates or nitrites are linked to increased risk of cancers. Deep fried or processed chicken often contains trans fats or other unhealthy oils. And of course, finally in this list, we're looking at parasites. And I know this looks really bad, but it is that bad. Improperly cooked chicken may occasionally harbor certain parasites, such as the one you're seeing here, the helminthiasis worms, which are parasites, which may be found in chicken. Now, some parasites may be clearly visible to the eyes, while others may be very microscopic. But in any event, they go into the body and they create very unhealthy situations. And we can see how this particular bird would develop all of these or produce all of these reactions, because they are modified. They were not food initially. They were made into food through domestication and crossbreeding and genome changes and that sort of a thing. So, well, these are some of the reasons we have decided not to continue with the consumption of chicken. Again, it is not listed in Scripture as being clean or unclean, but based on the information gathered, we have chosen not to, because it was not part of the diet of our ancestors. And for us, we do not believe it should be part of our diet either, as native borns. For those out there who continue even after this presentation to do so, you do so by choice. And we have presented the information, and with knowledge comes responsibility. And so from this presentation, you may choose whether or not you continue to consume this product. Here are some illustrations or pictures of artifacts believed to have been found in the Indus Valley, and on them we see imagery of chickens. Here is on this artifact we see two here. We also see over here highlighted or highlighted in yellow. So though these of course would have been the jungle fowls, which were later domesticated after being interbred and all of that. Nevertheless, you may also do your own research, and so we have provided some sources that you may visit and do your own reading outside of what we have presented. We do not ask that you accept what we have presented, but we do invite you to think, to research, and to make a decision that is informed on whether or not you will continue to consume chicken. Yada yawa.
We are the Nazarene of Yahuwah.
And of course, we say Akhad,
Ahabah,
which means
one love.
And we thank all our viewers and subscribers, all the family of the Most High, for viewing today's presentation.